Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 111, featuring Abstract 1. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I am the host of the TrekRanks podcast, and tonight, how could we not do this topic? Tonight, it's episode 111, so it's kind of forcing our hands a little bit. That's 111. We're bringing back our Abstract series to talk about Abstract 1. And what the hell is an abstract topic? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute in our diagnostic cycle. But let's introduce our great panel for tonight's show now and get into this. First up, returning for her third appearance on TrekRanks. She was with us most recently for Trek 101, and prior to that on Top 5 Buzzer Beaters back on episode 92. So hailing us from the Wisconsin Expanse, it's Abby Sommer. Welcome back, Abby.
Thank you so much for having me. It is always a joy to be on. And I've been on 2 episodes with ones in them recently, so maybe it's my lucky number.
I just realized that 101 and 111. So you're kind of, you got the extra prompt in the title of the episodes going for you right now with the 101 and the 111. And our second guest, I have to say, I am so excited to finally get him on. It's way overdue. I'm sure most of our listeners already follow him on Twitter because he's super engaging, super clever, consistently posts the most fun Trek polls. We love those with the most random topics. Like, feels like it's just the mantra of TrekRanks when I see those random polls. I love it. So here he is. It is at Shelf Nerds himself, Chris Chaplin. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Jim and Abby. It's great to be here on TrekRanks talking about some Star Trek nerd fun, just like my polls, like you said.
I love those polls. It's great to finally get you on here. And we're going to start with our normal first-time guest question about your Trek origin story, which I don't know. So I'm really excited to hear this. What's your Trek backstory? How'd you get into it? Are you a completist? I'm pretty sure you are based on your Twitter recently.
I'm actually not.
Oh, you still have some. Okay, because I know you've tweeted about it.
3 episodes of the original series and then Code of Honor I've never seen.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'll ever fix that.
That's incredibly specific. That's like our friend Carlos Miranda, who was not a completist until he finally watched These Are the Voyages.
These Are the Voyages.
So. Interesting. So 3, do you know the TOS episodes?
Yeah, those 3 are And the Children Shall Lead, Spectre of the Gun. Oh, I guess there's only 2. And then TNG's Code of Honor.
Okay,
so 3 more episodes left. Yeah.
But 2 of the all-time worst episodes in the history of Star Trek, and one super cool one that you would have just heard me talking about on one of our recent episodes, our TOS Guilty Pleasures.
Yeah.
So keep going with your origin story.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised a Trekkie. I was born in 1987. That's the year TNG came out. And so my earliest memory of Trek is like laying in front of the living room TV while my parents watched TNG, and I'm coloring in a coloring book. And I don't know what episode it was, but Data was sitting at the science station and Picard and Geordi were behind him, I think. Then I just watched TNG. I watched Voyager. Parents weren't into DS9, so I didn't see that until my mid-20s.
Right.
But after that, I'm just hooked. Live and breathe it.
Watching them all. And today, if you had to pick today, what's your favorite series?
I think the pandemic revealed to me that it is TNG. When things got really stressful, I kept going to that. I thought it was Voyager for a while. That was my big thing, but TNG is just so comfortable.
Yes.
That's where I land most of the time when I need some comfort Trek.
I love it. All right. Well, so you were born into it. That is fantastic. All right, let's get into our TrekRanks recalibration so we can start talking some Abstract 1.
Let's start with something small, like a recalibration of the EPS manifolds.
As regular listeners will know by now, general order number 1 of the TrekRanks chart is that we love Trek. We love to rank Trek via some deep dive topics just to get the conversation started. And remember, it's not about the ranks. That's just our excuse to talk about Star Trek.
But what is that Vulcan motto? Infinite diversity, in infinite combinations.
And what is diversity but a celebration of differences?
And as Topol and Dr. Phlox just said, Trek Ranks is basically just a big old celebration of differences. There are no wrong answers at Trek Ranks. It's not about being right or definitive in any way. It's just about sharing the things we love about Trek. And we love it all from TOS to TNG, straight through to Enterprise and the Kelvin timeline, and now Discovery, Short Trek, Star Trek Picard, Lower Decks. It's all fair game here on the Trek Ranks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder that this episode of Trek Ranks is current through 801 episodes of Star Trek, which currently translates through the 3rd season of Star Trek Discovery. And just one final reminder that we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are always in play as well.
Have boosted power to the communications bandwidth.
We appreciate that, Mr. Kim. And you can find Trek Ranks on Subspace at TrekRanks.com. You can contact me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra. You can also call and leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. Okay, Abby and Chris, why don't you guys let everybody know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace? Abby.
Best way to get me is on Twitter, and that's Abby M. Sommer, and Sommer is SOMMER.
Lots of good Trek nerd talk there. And Chris, how can people follow your polls?
Yeah, on Twitter, I'm at Shelf Nerds.
Perfect. I love those polls. I'm gonna keep
Oh my God. I
so much
scroll
fun
through you on purpose every day, multiple times to see if I missed any.
Right. I just think they're so much fun. All right. Okay, let's activate our level 1 diagnostic to get into today's show.
Run a level 1 diagnostic series. Come.
All right, so for this diagnostic cycle, I'm going to quickly define our weird abstract topics that we've been doing here on Trek Ranks. This is the 3rd one we've done, and the first one was abstract threes, which for some reason just hit me as a fun topic. And then we moved into letter territory. We did abstract H. And now it's episode 111. So when it rolled around, I figured we need to do abstract 1 and just see what we come up with for that. So that's it. It's 1. Could literally mean anything to anybody. Will be a great platform for us to kind of build a conversation on Trek. And that's what we do here at Trek Rank. So abstract 1, a complete wide open free range topic to do with as you please. And one more thing. For these abstract topics, we don't usually do it like top 5. We just kind of do, here's our 5. So we'll do kind of round 1, round 2, etc. Okay, let's do this. Let's get into our prime directive.
But what you're proposing is exactly the kind of tampering the prime directive prohibits.
Okay, Abby, let's get into this with you. How did you define your prime directive in order to come up with your final list?
Well, I love the fact that you like to give me topics that cover everything because it leaves everything on the table. So I just started off thinking of anything that just popped into my mind, and I had way more than I expected. And so then I put those on a list, and then I looked at all the episodes that were numbered 111 or 111 of each show, and then each season of each show.
Oh my gosh. That's brilliant.
But then I couldn't just like the episode if it was number 111 or 111. I had to have some other one connection if that was going to make the list. And then I combined my lists and I rewatched what I decided were my top 10 and picked the 5 that resonated the most and put the other 5 in my secondary systems. And I tried really hard not to repeat a series, but it didn't quite work. But I was close.
Okay, that's a lot. I love it. This is as broad a topic as, literally it's as broad a topic as we've ever had. 1. That could literally mean anything on any episode. Okay, I just need to know this since I don't think you picked it, but for episode 1, were you saying the man trap or the cage?
See, I figured I could give myself either one.
Okay, perfect. That's the best Trek Ranks answer. I love it. Okay, Chris, how about you, man? How'd you break it down?
Yeah, I always go to what emotionally moved me the most. So I didn't even think about looking at the episode numbers.
Me neither.
It's brilliant. But I just had to find something that had a 1 in it, a quote or something thematically 1. And then my major rule was, do I connect with it in some way emotionally? And I wanted to spread it around and not repeat a series. And I succeeded with that.
The connection is a great way to do it. I rarely do that with trying to separate it from other series. I always think about it after the fact. It's kind of funny. So for me, this was definitely tough to narrow down. I kind of went through a lot of things. There was no real rhyme or reason to any of the picks. So once I kind of had a long list, I wanted to make sure there was some kind of continuity or theme in the pick. So my first attempt, I was thinking I would define one as like single. So like just a single thing or one thing. And I would find things and I'm thinking, oh, that's a 100% unique thing in Trek. But then as I dived into it more, I was like, no, it's not really single. So I kind of scrapped that whole idea. My example for that I'm going to give, because I don't think anybody would pick it, is I was going to pick Jayla because she's like the one character we've seen of that species. But then I was like, well, she talks about her family, so she obviously wasn't the only one. Way overthinking it. So I just scrapped all that. And in the end, the thing I decided to finally do is I just wanted to have all 5 picks be really central to the plot or the action taking place in terms of when you see that one or hear the one, and also to be very different from each other in every way. So the theme was that they're all really core to the episode, but they're all very different from each other in unique ways. So all my picks are really abstract, really connected to 5 super awesome episodes of Trek that I'm excited to talk about. So, okay, let's do this first Kudecaton. That's a 1. Let's introduce us to the new order of things.
It'll be alphas like us that determine the future of this quadrant. That will be the new order of things.
Thank you, First Kudecaton. As always, just a quick reminder on how we're going to go through the order of things. First, everyone will start with their 5-word summary and a hashtag to tease their pick. Then we'll each reveal our abstract 1 pick and the specific reason we're highlighting it and the episode that it comes from or they most associate it with. And at the end, we'll ask everyone for a few secondary system selections for the picks that just missed our list. And as always, if we have any duplicate picks, make sure you listen for the Defiant Torpedoes. And I have to say, I kind of feel there's not going to be any duplicates this week. We'll see. We've been surprised before, but this feels like a show with no duplicates. Okay, Abby, we're going to kick it off with you. What's your first choice for an abstract 1 pick?
Okay, my number 5 pick, my summary is one-of-a-kind collection, hashtag it took great effort.
Oh, yes.
And it's Fajo's collection.
Yes.
Of one-of-a-kind items.
Oh, my God. That's so good.
I hope I did that impression well enough because I tried really hard.
Oh, it's so good. Perfect impersonation. We love Kiva Fajo. We love the most toys. I didn't think of this one when I was going with single. This would have been perfect for that.
This was my first one I thought of, and partially because I absolutely love the actor, Saul Rubinek, who plays Fajo. He also plays Artie Nielsen on Warehouse 13, which is...
Love him.
Man, he is absolutely amazing. And he and Brent Spiner first met on Star Trek and then played again later on Warehouse 13. And you can see that relationship starting in this episode, and it's one of my comfort food episodes of TNG.
Definitely.
Yep.
It's so good, and it's so all wrapped up neatly. And his collection of one-of-a-kinds just kind of send me off onto tangents of, this is really a huge universe. There's like 12 things that we talk about here, and we really only vaguely know the story of a couple. Like, this is somebody's fanfic's heaven to go write the backstories of his collection. And I love the costuming in this. I love the moral dilemma in this. And that last scene when they're looking at each other, Data and Fajo in the brig, and he's telling him that his entire collection of one-of-a-kind things have been given back. And he goes, well, that must give you great pleasure. And Data just goes, I do not feel pleasure. I'm an android.
Just don't count me up too quickly. I had you in my collection once. I can have you there again.
Unlikely, sir. Your collection has been confiscated. All of your stolen possessions are being returned to their rightful owners. You have lost everything you value.
It must give you great pleasure.
No, sir. It does not. I do not feel pleasure. I am only an android.
That's a mic drop moment right there. It's amazing.
It's so good. It's so good. And the fact that, I love the ending when sorry, people, Data pulled the trigger.
He did.
That's a
I
thing.
agree.
That happened.
it just hit me. Is this the one episode that Data lies
Ooh.
about that phaser? Is this the one episode?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, well, a straight up lie as opposed to not being
ordered to tell not the truth.
Or being coerced. Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
But it wasn't a lie though, or was he? Yeah, you're right. It was a lie. I mean, maybe he was justifying it somehow in his mind. So, I love this pick, Chris. What's your take on it?
I mean, the scene that you focused on in the brig is just powerful, and like Brent Spiner has said, we put all the meaning to his performance because he's just standing there. He only says, "I'm only an android," but there's so much packed into that phrase. Mm-hmm. What a great pick! Yeah,
it's fantastic. I love Paylor Toth. I love
ribbons in his face holes.
Yep, he's so cool. He's so flamboyant. And I always say this, I just said it about another actor, Norman Lloyd from The Chase in our Crusher episode. Paylor Toth, I always have to say this because he was played by Nehemiah Persoff, who's a great actor from way back. We talked about this in our Twilight Zone episode because he was in a couple of Twilight Zone episodes. He's still alive. He's like 105 years old. It's incredible. It's incredible. So I love Paylor Toth. I love this pick. Awesome job, Abby. Great start. Chris, let's do you. What's your first pick?
All right. Well, my 5 words are arrogance, stubborn pride, emotions, logic. # confusing abundance. And this is from The Forge when Saval admits that humans have all of these different conflicting characteristics in one.
Oh, I love it. I was wondering where that was going. That's fantastic.
I love this scene. I mean, I didn't quite enjoy Enterprise 100% when in first run, probably because the decon chambers, even though I was like a teenager, I was still like, what is going on? But when I saw that Vulcan trilogy, I was like, oh, this is, I'm sold. This is amazing. And so this was one of the first things I thought of. And especially because I'm kind of doing an Enterprise spotty rewatch, just kind of bouncing around the series. Yeah. I just love how they nailed what humanity is and how all the other species are kind of represented by one characteristic.
That is so cool. All right, since now we know what it is, to read those characteristics again.
Yeah, arrogance, stubborn pride, emotions, logic.
So good. So good. I love this pick. I mean, obviously, I love any time the Vulcan trilogy comes up. One of my favorites. And I have a pick similar to this where it's kind of the same atmosphere. And this is it was so cool when all of a sudden Saval is like, oh, okay, so we're tight with Saval now. I love that this trilogy did that. And I'll be honest, I haven't really talked about this. I remember when I was filming my episode thinking, what the hell is Saval doing on the bridge? Like, why are we working with Saval? I had this in the back of my mind because it was like 3 months before that, and I hadn't read the script even though I got one. Because spoilers, I wasn't going to read that. But I always
self-control than I
was just going to say.
No. I
That's Vulcan restraint.
I waited till after, and I just was like, man, it's just really weird. So anyway, I love this pick. Abby, what's your take?
I love Enterprise, and I love this trilogy, and I love this episode, and I love this pick. So I think this is a really good episode that shows how the Vulcan and human relationship is growing and changing throughout the course of this series. And what a perfect pick to encapsulate all of that. So bravo, Chris. And you can listen to our new First Flight pod that's coming out. That's an Enterprise Rewatch podcast.
I cannot wait to listen to that.
Yeah, everyone should definitely check that out on Tricorder. And let's go to my round 1 pick. 5 words and a hashtag. The genesis of subspace communications, hashtag Echo 2 to Echo 1. Oh. It's Silent Enemy from Enterprise Season 1. This is such an underrated episode of Star Trek.
Agreed.
It is incredible. It has it all. It captures the real ominous feeling of space exploration for a ship that's out there for the first time and they're feeling their way through it. And it opens. I thought of this one really early on because I just love I love the visual effects and that we get to see it, because normally you don't get to see this kind of thing in old school Trek. It opens with the NX-01 dropping off a subspace amplifying buoy to get subspace online. And by the way, that's the phrase that Archer uses. Let's get subspace online. I love that. and one of they show Echo 2, but then they say it's all right, it's connected with Echo 1 that they've already dropped out there. So that's my abstract one. Just thought this was a cool, really abstract pick. I love the graphic. I love what it represents. Subspace. This is obviously a huge part of Trek through the years. Great special effect. And amazingly, this is only the second time I looked this up, because I was like, I don't feel like we've talked about this too many times on TrekRanks. This is only the second time Silent Enemy has been picked on TrekRanks. The first time was, I love this, was back in episode 6, The Origin of the Soup Round, when Adam Drozen took it in top 5 food moments because of Malcolm's pineapple birthday cake. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I love this episode. I love Echo 1. Abby, what's your take?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I love the pineapple birthday cake as well. It's one of our first glimpses into Malcolm when he's a little bit more unbuttoned, and it's such a nice little thing there. So what a perfect moment.
First and last?
Well, maybe.
That was a joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, poor Malcolm.
I know.
He gets the short end of so many sticks.
The thing about Malcolm that I think is funny is that he was like purposely written obtuse. So being obtuse is his thing. So when people say he doesn't have a thing because he's so weird, I'm like, that's his thing. Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
The episode is fantastic. I agree. The special effects on this one hold up pretty well. And what a neat way to see the beginning of some of these things with the Echo 1 and Echo 2. And I think it's interesting that you see some of the frustration about Archer going, is every alien out here hostile? Like, seriously, come on now. And one would hope that that's not what would happen in real life, but it does seem to happen an awful lot in TV. So it was nice to hear that verbalized. That's one of my favorite little kind of inside jokes in the episode.
Yep, I love it. Chris, how about you?
You know, this one I'm a little fuzzy on. I remember the hunt for the pineapple or the favorite food. Yep. But actually, when I'm scrolling through Twitter and deciding what I'm going to watch tomorrow, Silent Enemy was one of my considerations. So I probably will now.
Well, there you go.
It's funny. It's one of those episodes that people kind of forget, or they conflate with Fight or Flight or a couple of other episodes. But when you sit down and just watch this one, you kind of go, holy crap, this one's really good. This is very interesting. So, okay, let's go to the second round. Abby, what's your second pick?
All right. My next pick is First Kelpian, -- Best First Officer, and # Kelpian Evolution. And I want to talk about Saru.
Yes.
And the episode that I picked to focus on is season 2, episode 6, The Sound of Thunder.
Oh.
And while I waffle on if he's the best first officer, mostly because he's got such great company, he is a phenomenal first officer without argument. I mean, he's got natural anxiety built into his genome, but he blossoms under both Lorca and Pike, which, I mean, could you have different ends of the spectrum there? And he's steady, kind. He's a disciplinarian when he needs to be. He's curious. He's a rule breaker when it calls for it. He's honorable. He's loyal. He's bold. And he rises to whatever challenge is called for. And I adore that he became captain because he both deserved it and rocks it. And his time with Supal is great, but my favorite part of his growth so far is from The Sound of Thunder. He's past Baharai. He's struggling to find his own new balance. He's still himself, but he's more and less himself all at once. And he doesn't always handle it well, which is kind of nice to see in a character that you already respect, because that's what humans do all the time. We don't always handle things well, even if we have in the past. And he just tries so hard all the time. Even when he lost it and yelled at the Baul on the bridge, you can still 100% empathize and sympathize where he's coming from and why he's doing it. And that's part of the true journey of Saru. And I mean, Doug Jones is just a gem of the universe. And he's helping to flesh out and create this new fascinating race that we're learning bits and pieces about all over. But he was the first and only one. And as far as he knew, that was going to be how it was for a really long time. Yep. So that really impacts him. And when all his scenes with his sister Serana just pull at your heart and they give you the feels. But man, when he shot those head spikes, I literally jumped out of my seat the first time and went, yes, because that was so cool and so unexpected. So I love this episode and I love Saru, and I can't wait to see where the next part of his journey goes.
This is fantastic. You highlighted the thing I was going to highlight, which is there's so much going on in this episode, but the thing that I remember so much is when he loses his shit on the bridge. And he's like yelling at Pike, and he's yelling at the bar, and he's like, or he's ignoring Pike more.
Yep. And
he's yelling at the Baul, and it's just a powerful moment for his evolution, like you said. And I also like what you said about when he signed up, he thought, this is it. I'm on my own for the rest of my life. This is the end. So every time there's a little nugget of, Kelpians coming back in and Kaminar coming back into it, I just love it. It's really interesting. It's a great kind of running arc of Discovery, and season 4 looks amazing because it's so cool that they're in the Federation now, and obviously there's going to be a lot more with Kaminar in season 4 of Discovery. We got a glimpse of it in the new trailer. Chris, what's your take on this?
I mean, Sound of Thunder is very personally important to me because as my wife was asleep but in labor with our second child, I watched that because it was on Thursday. So I connect this episode very emotionally to my life.
Wow. That's
and
cool.
In some ways, I mean, the episode, the Kelpians are being born into a new version of themselves.
Yeah.
It's everything you said, Abby and Jim, everything 100%. And Saru, like Michael, we get to see them earn captaincy, which we've never seen that. I guess we saw Sisko earn his captaincy, but he kind of was already the captain. He was the commanding officer.
Right.
But Burnham and Saru, we saw them grow into that and earn it. And it's so much more meaningful in that way.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. And it's so true. And you're right. Of course, Sisko technically grew into it, but he was the captain from the get-go and everything but name. But these guys, it's a really good point about Discovery. And it's not just 1, 2 characters, it's 2.
Yeah,
very cool.
Definitely.
Very cool. Awesome pick, Abby. Chris, what's your second pick?
All right. 5 words. From figurative to literal conflict. Hashtag not on Da Vinci's watch. This is from Crisis Point in Lower Decks.
It's like that's what Da Vinci's now going to be known for in all of Trek, which is so good.
I mean, I love Concerning Flight. I love Da Vinci and Voyager, but this was a great moment. And that's not the moment, though.
I don't care. We're talking about that. Not on Da Vinci's watch. Anyway, keep going.
You just pair the image of Spock's coffin torpedo with Da Vinci now.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's ridiculous.
It's so good. So
it's perfect.
I love that we don't know your pick yet.
So my pick is Crisis Point, my favorite episode of Lower Decks.
Mine too.
In this episode, Mariner wrestles with herself.
Oh, so good.
Right?
Yeah.
So
and
good.
she reveals a lot about her inner conflict. And we learn just so much from this inner struggle. And it's just brilliant. It's brilliant writing. It's the best holodeck episode in Star Trek. That's my position, because the holodeck doesn't malfunction. The holodeck works perfectly, yet it moves character along, and we get so much insight. A similar episode would be like Hollow Pursuits, right? So that's I had to pick this one because it's just perfect.
Brilliant episode. This is a brilliant pick. Mariner face to face with herself.
Tremble at the sight of the great Vindictor!
It is not hyperbole to say this is the best holodeck episode of Star Trek ever. The fact that this is all in 22 minutes is impossible to me. Impossible.
And they take time to just do visual jokes.
They do it all.
They drive past the ship 40 times.
How can this be 22 minutes long?
The titles hitting Boimler on the head.
Yes,
I mean, it's so good. Well, and one of my favorite things is when there is the aspect ratio switching. And when Tendi storms out, she storms out into
the blood
into
disappears.
The blood disappears, but also in the holodeck, it's still the aspect ratio. And then on the corridor, it's not. It's so good. Brilliant. And beside all that, it's about something, because the Mariner stuff, it's such a huge episode to move her character forward. It's this realization for her. Incredible pick. I love it. Abby, anything else?
Well, I just have to say that I obviously agree with you, because the last time I was on TrekRanks and I was doing 101 and I had to pick what I thought was the best holodeck episode, I picked the same one. So
wait, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, that's so good.
It's brilliant. And it's like having a holodeck episode and a movie together. And it's where you really, if you were getting irritated by Mariner, like my husband was when we were watching Lower Decks the first time, his attitude changed after this one.
Me
and
too.
That's important.
Yep.
So
I always liked her, but this, like, she became a more complex character in this episode.
Really good. All right, let's close out round 2. My 5 words and hashtag: friendship from the Alpha Quadrant, hashtag like Voyager 1 before it. And it, of course, is Friendship 1. It was the episode, but my pick is the ship. Friendship 1, another underrated episode. Lots of cool stuff going on here.
R.I.P. Carrie.
R.I.P. Carrie. That was close to me on my hashtag, but I wanted to put a 1 in all my hashtags, so I got there's a 1 in all my 5 words and hashtag. But I talked about the visual effects last time. I'm going to talk about it again. They really stand the test of time. I love the design of the Friendship 1 ship. I love what it says and what it means. The opening 15 minutes of this episode is really strong with setting up the mystery, and they get down to the planet and they realize there's a nuclear winter, and Harry and Tom and everybody's exploring. My main reason for picking it again is the probe, Friendship 1. I just love the concept for the episode. It's literally one of these satellite probes that we've been sending into space with messages from Earth for 50 years in real life.
We, the people of Earth, greet you in a spirit of peace and humility. As we venture out of our solar system, we hope to earn the trust and friendship of other worlds.
And this is just a future example of that caused all this devastation on the planet. Really cool, interesting concept. I think they do a good job with it here. This is a Brian Fuller script, and I just love that ship. Friendship 1, super cool. Chris, what's your take?
First of all, this is a great pick for another reason. Is this not Voyager's first official mission from Starfleet?
Oh, that's right. It's first one in 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah, since being stranded.
Which she says. Yeah, that's a good one. I love it.
So, a good episode. It stinks that Carrie dies.
It sure does.
After not being around for a long time. Like, if he'd been around a lot, it would be more. But, I love any connection to Earth, history, and Starfleet is great.
The Carrie death thing isn't the best executed thing ever, because it's like, oh, Carrie's here. Oh, he's going to die. That's just obvious. They're setting it up for... Anyway, but Abby, what's your take on it?
Well, this was on my long list, and it didn't make my top 10, so I'm really glad that it made your top 5 even, because this is a great episode. And it's one of those ones that sticks in my mind visually. Like, when I think about this episode, I think about what are the characters wearing and what do they look like, and where they're living and all that. It's just all so connected that it left a big impact on me. And I really understand, as a mother of young kids, that this mom who finds out her baby isn't going to survive, she's going to try to hand him to a perfect stranger for even a hope that it's going to happen.
Yes.
And that just hits me in the feels every single time. And of course, then that's what turns everything around, because how do you not save a kid and go, okay, well, I still think you're horrible. You saved this kid. So excellent pick.
I give props to Tom Paris' character on that. It's just kind of the end of his arc to show. I mean, he's at the center of all that. Like, hey, we're going to save this kid and we're going to save these people.
Well, and he's got a kid on the way too. So he's understanding the depth of that in a way he never would have beforehand. So it's a really nice moment for him as well.
Yeah, great point.
Eat your soup. Courtesy of a loyal establishment. Jolan True.
Okay, soup round. Let's do it. Abby, what's your number 3 pick?
All right, so this was the one where I looked at all of the episodes, the number 1, number 11, and number 111, and I came up with an episode 11 of a season. So,
okay.
Yep. My summary is this was really hard, and when I get to my secondary systems, you'll hear the one that I had to flip-flop. And if it was any other episode but this, the other one would have won. So, all right, so here's my summary. Worf traverses many shifting universes And my more general hashtag is hashtag 285,000 hails. And my really deep cut hashtag is the Battle of Haros, right? Which I just could not give up because I was like, oh man, only the deepest nerds are going to get that one. But it is
well played.
It's TNG season 7, episode 11, Parallels.
Love it.
Yeah, this episode blew my mind when I saw it as a middle schooler. Like, I like Worf. He's never been my favorite, but I watched my VHS taped from TV tape of this episode at least 100 times in the year after it came out. Like, I almost broke the tape because I loved the idea of all these different universes, but just the one where you belonged, and that make everything right with these multiverses. You had to find your one place. And it was kind of comforting to me at that time in my life that if I was making a difficult choice, that I could go, well, in that other universe, the other choice is being made. So, I don't have to feel so bad. I don't really think that now as an adult, but I still love this episode. It's well done. The little subtle differences from universe to universe were really great. And when you look back after you know what's going on, you see so many tiny little details. I mean, all the way down to Brent Spiner has blue eyes in one scene. Right. It's amazing. The comm badges are different. Somebody's cuffs are turned up. It's so well done. And we got to see a lot of the what ifs of previous seasons and years of TNG played out a little bit. There's sadness, there's hope, there's humor that we don't always see with Worf. I mean, when he pokes his head around that door frame, that was just meant to be a gift before there were gifts out there.
That's right.
And his reaction to Lwaxana maybe being his stepmother, like, that's the most classic Worf face ever. I just love this episode, and I love the fact that he's going to have to go back and report this. And how do you even begin to say what you just went through? So yeah. I love this episode, and when I saw that it was a number 11 in a season, I was like, yep, that's it.
I like how you associate it too with like needing to be in your one place too. Yep. That's super cool. You talked about all the different kind of little tricks and things happening in the background. My favorite is when all of a sudden Wesley Crusher's there. I was just like, oh, that's so cool. This is everyone knows I love Brandon Braga, man. This is one of his best scripts. Chris, what's your take on Parallels?
It's just pure fun. And didn't Worf get first place in the Bat'leth tournament?
No, he got ninth.
First and ninth, and he honorable mention, and he didn't get it all.
Well, in one of those universes, there's a one. Yeah, it's just so much fun, and I cannot wait until there's the guy on Twitter named Jorg. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah,
I can't wait for him. Is it Jorg?
It's pronounced like York.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I cannot wait until he gives us all the detailed screenshots of all the little changes in this one.
That's so good.
It's going to be a while, but that's going to be awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is a classic, perfect episode of TNG. It's high concept. Was this chosen for high concepts? I don't remember.
Good question.
I think it was at least mentioned because I remember listening to that one, and it was at least on somebody's secondary systems.
It has to be.
Actually, it was not mentioned it was not mentioned on the TNG high concept episodes. That's fascinating. Huh. That's I'm sure it came up in the secondary systems.
Well, and it was on my list for sure too.
Okay, awesome. Chris, what's your soup round pick?
All right, for the soup round pick, 5 words. We will be autonomous, independent. # one voice over 1,000.
Ooh.
And this is from The Gift. A super underrated episode. I mean, it is such an important, powerful episode in Star Trek because it really attacks one of Star Trek's central themes, individual identity, right? And this is Seven having to wrestle with this idea that she will be autonomous and independent. And that's gonna be the conflict for her going forward in Voyager. But it's the thing we're exploring in all of Star Trek. What does it mean to be an individual, and what kind of individual are you going to be?
Irrelevant! Take me back to the Borg.
I can't do that.
Quiet. One voice.
One voice can be stronger than 1,000 voices. Your mind is independent now with its own unique identity.
You are forcing that identity upon me. It's not mine.
Oh, yes, it is. I'm just giving you back what was stolen from you.
This pick is brilliant. One voice. Seven struggling with that. So clever. I love it. Abby, what's your take on this one?
Well, I definitely thought about the Borg too, and one voice and one mind and all that, but I didn't think of this one, and now I'm kicking myself because this is a fantastic pick. And I also agree, the gift is not given the love that it should be, because there's so many layers to that story, and you're starting things and ending things at the same time. That what a great pick.
I'm kind of trying to think of all the different times the Borg, where the Borg Queen talked about speaking in one voice.
The one who is many.
Yeah, the one who is many. Yep. Oh my God.
I thought about First Contact for the Borg here, but I had to go with this one. This is the one that I connect with most. Janeway and Seven in the brig. Those conversations are some of the best back and forths in Star Trek, in my opinion.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you just said that about the Borg Queen, because I'm gonna roll into my my super round pick here for round 3. My 5 words and a hashtag is very similar to that, but it's not the Borg. So this is fascinating. Here we go. 5 words. I'm many and I'm one. Hashtag speak your names. And it is Forget Me Not from Discovery season 3. And this episode of Discovery, it's the episode I think about the most since season 3 ended. I don't have it ranked at the top, but it's just so powerful. And it's got some of my favorite stuff from how they portrayed and kind of showed how the memories of a Trill symbiont work. Being able to see it with the Discovery kind of visuals and the concept, with the colorful threads all connecting to Adira and their memories being showcased in there. I just love the way it describes something that's pretty universal for everyone in terms of discovering yourself and accepting who you are and just coming to grips with, who you are during the course of your life. And this was really showcasing this scene where Adira comes out of the symbiont pool with all their memories intact and says to the Trill, I am many and I am one, which is really, like we just talked about, the perfect Star Trek mantra. And then Adira states the names of all their hosts. It's just beautiful. It's important for how people can find themselves and see themselves in this show. And I just love it.
You said you'd be the same after you became a host, and all these things you can do now. Kind of like you're perfect.
Well, I already was perfect. That's why you love me. Okay. I told you. I'm still me. Just more me.
Which parts? Like, what's you and what's all the other hosts?
There aren't any fences. I'm many, and I'm one. Like everyone.
I feel like I need to keep up.
You're being a crazy person. It's not a race.
I don't think I could ever do what you did.
Bullshit. The joining's based on trust. I didn't just have to accept Tal. Tal had to accept me. The former hosts had to accept me, too.
Forget Me Not, Adira Tal. Abby, what's your take?
Oh, this is an absolutely brilliant pick, because that episode has so many layers, but it all comes together at one in the end. And Adira is a fascinating character, and I am so excited that they will be back for the next season and we get to see more layers of the story and all that. And yeah, the visuals in this episode are incredible. And if that's what it's like to be a Trill and to get joined and all that, well, that's even cooler than I thought it was, which is fantastic. And I love the costumes in this episode too. I know I've talked about this a few times when I've been on TrekRanks, but the costuming in Discovery should win every single award every time, because they are just outstanding. And even though these Trill ones are pretty simple, they're so distinctive. And I can't wait to see the cosplay that comes out of it as well.
They're simple, they're distinctive, and they feel like old school Trek to me. It feels like that's it's like that could fit right into 90s Trek.
Sure could. Even
with the
colors.
quality of today.
Yes, exactly. Chris, what's your take?
Yeah, I was wrestling with, man, do I have a Trill idea in my list? Because that's the many and the one, that concept. But my mind only went to Dax, but I couldn't find an episode that I connected with emotionally, really powerfully. If I thought about this one, I would have chosen it for sure. I mean, it's so powerful. All the visuals, like you said, is strong. Even when Michael and Adira are walking around on Trill out in the green and everything, it's just gorgeous cinematography. The best looking show in the series, in the franchise.
Yeah, incredible. And there's a great moment in that when you talk about that where Burnham just pulls out the phaser and shoots those guys when she's being confronted, and Adira's like, "That's not Starfleet protocol." She's like, "Nope, I've been gone." And she doesn't say it. She doesn't say it, but it's a big moment to realize, oh yeah, she's been gone a year. She's doing things her own way now.
1 year has changed her in many ways.
Really, really cool.
Another one.
I love it. Okay, let's go to the fourth round. And Abby, what's your number 4 pick?
All right. So my 5 words are Talus's death eventually spurs cooperation. #Yushan. And this is my favorite best one-on-one fight. And it's when Archer and Shran are fighting in Enterprise Season 4, Episode 13, United.
Yes. Fantastic. Also known as the Babel 1 trilogy.
Yes. Yep. And this is the middle. And middles of trilogies don't always get enough love because it's a lot of plot exposition and moving things to bigger things. But this episode has everything. It's got Andorians and Vulcans and humans and Tellarites and Romulans and Remans and Rigelians. And it's got all that conflict leading up to this battle, this Yushan, that really highlights the Archer and Shran relationship. And they both know they're friends. They have deep respect for each other and they don't want to do this, but they're going to call each other's bluff. And I love that the rest of our crew is trying really hard to make this be okay and to find a loophole, or at least, I mean, Hoshi, Travis, and T'Pol stay up all night to find the way out. And even Phlox is giving combat tips at the end. So this is the crew they've become. And the back and forth between Archer and Shran when they're hooked together is so spot on because it's like the most respectful trash talk you've ever heard. And what a cool idea that the blades that they use, the old, ice miners tools, the fact that they're hooked together, and the fact that the antenna chop is the perfect solution to this. And of course it's TV, so we knew they were going to find a loophole. They're not killing off Archer here. They're not killing off Shran. But it was such a great way to get that respectful ending to combat that nobody actually wanted to be doing. And the last 60 seconds of this episode where you see the shot of the combined fleet of allies, and then you see that the pilot is an Anar. Oh my God, that was the longest week when this episode came out. I'm like, you cannot leave me here.
I'm going to rewatch this episode as soon as we're done here. It's so good. Your description is perfection. This is Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens. They deserve all the credit for all those things you just said about how smart the script is, how all the characters are working together. And the thing I love about, and I love your 1v1, I'll tell you right now, in my secondary systems, I had 1v1 Kirk versus the Gorn.
That's mine too. That was my secondary system.
That's awesome. I never thought of this one. I'm so glad you picked it. The thing about this fight is, even though you're right, of course, we know they're going to get out of it. It feels so visceral and respectful the way they're fighting. You don't know how they're going to get it. It's like, what the heck? How this? They have absolutely, written themselves into a corner. And then when he chops off the one antenna, it makes all the difference. I love this pick, Chris.
Well, and you don't know, but you don't know, like when this has commercials in it, you see the chop and you don't know that he cut his antenna.
Right, I know.
Until you come back from the commercial.
It's
great cinematography. Right?
So well done. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, season 4 of Enterprise, it's incredible with building the Federation, and that's why I love this trilogy, especially this. It's United, right? Yeah, especially this one. It's such a strong demonstration of how they get from there to here. I did not mean to do that.
That was perfect.
I mean, it's that and the Vulcan trilogy are the things I watch the most in Enterprise over and over again. So great pick, brilliant.
Yeah,
and we all know you chose this for the one antenna getting chopped off.
Well, there's so many layers of one in this.
All right, I love this pick. Great job, Abby. Chris, what's your 4th pick?
Okay. 5 words. When the two become one. Hashtag the anguish of the man. And this is from Sarek. I always knew I had to have a mind meld.
Oh, so good.
In this
A mind meld. It never crossed my mind. So good.
I had to. And I was like, what do I do? Devil in the Dark. Like, that's a super important one.
Yep.
But in this one really connected with me emotionally because of Patrick Stewart's performance.
Yes.
I mean, that scene in the shadows with Beverly there by his side, the tears, the anger, the growling. I mean, it cannot be said enough that Patrick Stewart is a gift to humanity just by his acting chops. And there's just that scene gets me choked up every single time because there's so many layers there. You're getting Sarek, but you're also seeing Picard in a new light, and he's suffering through this emotional overwhelm. And it also means a lot more in light of Lethe and you know, the more we've learned about the Sarek Spock relationship. So powerful episode. It was almost my number one.
And they truly become one. I mean, that is of all the mind melds we've ever seen, two people have never needed to kind of exchange themselves more than in this example of it. Absolutely.
And it's so
pick.
It's odd when Sarek's walking down the hall with Riker and he says, number one. And you're like, it's Picard, but it's not Picard.
Right.
At the same time.
Yep.
So great performances.
So well done. Abby, any take?
Well, I think this is a highlight of TNG. This episode is so masterful on so many levels. And I didn't think of a mind meld either, but what a great way to do it. And then not only does it connect now to all the stuff with Discovery, but the fact that then in Unification, Picard could mind meld with Spock and have that piece of Sarek go through, like, perfect. And I love that they're picking up all these little crumbs and putting them into one cohesive mass. It's
and this is
brilliant.
This is a game changer in terms of Star Trek. Remember, episode 171, we're doing game changers. This one, it was the first time they really brought back some of the old threads and world building and expanded TNG in a way that, can't do any better than bringing Sarek on board.
Absolutely. Season 3 of TNG is just my favorite season of TNG, and this episode is one of the reasons why.
Spectacular. Okay, let's close out our round 4 with my 4th pick. 5 words and hashtag survival must cancel out programming. Hashtag the old ones. And it is from the original series, What Are Little Girls Made Of? This is one of the first things I thought of. This is Ruck talking about the old ones who left the androids there. The old ones that the androids on Exos 3 killed off, and Roger Corby then came in and kind of recreated them. This is basically the backstory for Ruck. The androids, underrated episode of Trek. Another one. I love this episode. I love the old ones. It's Ruck is of course played by Ted Cassidy, and it was just so super cool. He's talking about how they grew fearful of us and they began turning us off, so we had to destroy them. And it's amazing to me that 10 episodes into Star Trek, you get this incredible dissertation between Ruck and Roger Corby about what life is, and that Roger Corby's an android, or a golem, to use another parlance that we just saw in Star Trek Picard. It's this android that contains Corby's memories and experience in life, his soul. He's whatever you want to call it. 50 years later, we're talking about that again in the kind of a new light with Star Trek Picard and Jean-Luc living on inside an artificial body. So I just love this episode. I love Ruck and the performance. And one little bonus here I'll say, because I didn't realize this until I knew it's kind of familiar, but I was reading it and went, oh, it makes sense. This episode was written by Robert Bloch, who did Psycho, as many people know, wrote that story, very famous. He also wrote Cat's Paw, and he referenced the old ones in Cat's Paw with Sylvia and Karob. Sylvia and Karob apparently had some kind of deal with the old ones. And then I looked that up and found out that Robert Bloch actually mentored under H.P. Lovecraft, which is crazy
Oh my goodness.
to think that that's a connection all the way to Star Trek. And apparently H.P. Lovecraft had the old ones in some of his famous work, so which I never knew. So really deep connection. I love it. That was the equation. Existence. Survival must cancel out programming. I do a terrible Ruck impersonation. Abby, what's your take?
Well, I think it's a great impersonation because I'm smiling like an idiot over here. But this is a great pick, and I didn't think about it at all. So that's really fun. And I think this episode has a lot of parallels to not only modern Trek, but modern world. I mean, AI is becoming more and more a part of our life, and you're seeing how all these different layers of that impact us in the world now, and how some of these questions might be coming up sooner than we think they are.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And any episode that has Christine Chaplin in it goes up higher.
Yes.
So good. So true. Chris, what's your take?
Yeah, so like I grew up on the TOS films along with TNG and Voyager, but I hadn't really seen much of TOS. And in college, there was a time when CBS like had the episodes for free on their website or something. This was the first episode of TOS that I watched, that I remember watching at least.
Yep.
And I was blown away by, Nurse Chapel and the whole story and the concept of, I guess identity and individuality is again central to Star Trek.
The old one. I'm just gonna keep doing it. Okay, sorry. We need that. We need.
And at the end of the credits, after everything else.
No, we need Dan Davison to come in here and do it. He does a great Ruck. He crushes it. Okay, let's go to our fifth round. Our final picks. Abby, what's your number 5 pick?
All right, this is one that I thought of pretty quickly too, and one of my probably top 10 episodes of Trek at all. So it had to make my list for this. My 5 words are a man and an AI dance. # what's a Tuesday? And this is the short Trek Calypso, because there are so many Star Trek and sci-fi in general episodes or movies where it's just the one person that's left on the ship or the planet. I mean, Snap Trek just did Voyager's episode 1 and Enterprise Doctor's Orders, which, there we go. Yeah. There's 3 right there. Yeah. But this is 18 minutes, including the credits. And this is the most relaxing, uplifting, comforting little bite. And I'm a sucker for a good short story or a novella, because it takes a masterful craftsperson to make that a satisfying chunk. And this one does that amazingly. And I'm not always one for the romance plots. Like sometimes I can get a little eye rolly, but this one gives me a happy sigh every single time I watch it. And the camera work is absolutely beautiful. And if you watch it carefully, there's a mix of like old-fashioned, like the classic cartoony looks, and then classic music, and then there's bits of the Discovery theme and Trek orchestration, and then more modern shots. It's all this blend of the old and the new, and it's just beautiful.
Croft, on your world, if we were lovers, would you tell me your name? Your true name?
If we were lovers on my world, you would give me my true name.
Oh. Well, then I already did.
And I love that it's been confirmed that Zora is going to slowly be worked towards over the course of Discovery, because what a cool idea. And just that voice is so soothing and lovely. And I can't wait to see how all those pieces hook in by the time Discovery is done with its run. And it's the first time that we hear the Vidresh mentioned. So that's also an interesting little crumb to drop. And I just adore this show. Probably watched it 50 times.
I mean, you talk about what it takes to write something this tight in 18 minutes and have this kind of impact. That is Michael Chabon. Just absolutely beautiful. So this episode was released about 2 years ago. Less than 2 years ago. And this is the 5th time it's been picked on TrekRanks,
for good reason.
It's outstanding.
It's that good. It's spectacular. This is a brilliant pick. I did not think of it, but of all the one episodes where it's just like one character kind of lost or stuck somewhere, this one just crushes it, and it's truly one because
you never see Kraft with any other person, even in his memories. You see his wife and his son, but you don't see them together. And when he dances with Zora, it's the projection. So he is literally the only one.
Yep, Aldous Hodge, amazing. Chris, what's your take?
Yeah, right now I'm working on a series of video essays on what is a Star Trek masterpiece, and I didn't even think of this one because in my mind it's not an episode; it is a short story. It's literature.
Yeah,
and I'm a literature teacher. I'm a reading coach, and I could see teaching this. There's a lot going on there, and it's a brilliant pick. I can't imagine that I didn't think about this, but it's definitely going in my series on Trek masterpieces.
Beautiful.
It is. It's so good. Awesome pick. And I mean, the more we see of Zora and the emergence of the Discovery computer is so cool in season 3. Love that. Okay, Chris, what is your final pick? Your number 5 pick?
Well, the number 1 is so hard to choose.
Yep.
I mean, I have 4 secondary systems with full hashtags and everything too. And then, 5 more after that without the hashtags. But my number 1 choice is this: fruitless choices to deathbed regret. Hashtag not quite Vulcans. And this is Lethe. Or Lethe.
Oh, yeah, Lethe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Sarek has to choose one of his not quite Vulcans to join the Vulcan Expeditionary Group.
Your ward, Michael, and your son, Spock.
What has my son to do with this situation? He's not yet begun his studies at the Science Academy.
Upon completion, he will apply to the Vulcan Expeditionary Group, and then there will be not 1, but 2 non-Vulcans in its ranks.
Spock is
half Vulcan. Another of your experiments. The integration of humans into our culture is an admirable goal, but it must be titrated. In honor of your position and reputation, I will accept 1 of your not quite Vulcans.
Do you ask me to make an impossible choice?
Your reaction to this is quite illogical and suggests a conclusion based on emotion.
And that choice is fruitless because Spock doesn't join up.
Yeah.
Just the emotional power of that episode and the explosion in the minds of all Trekkies and that revelation is just, it's still reverberating into the universe. I don't think I'll ever get over it. It's such a powerful episode because of what it does backwards in the canon. It makes everything so much more meaningful and explains the rift between Sarek and Spock in such a satisfying way.
This pick, I mean, I got goosebumps. I love this episode. It's a brilliant way to make it an abstract one. He's got to pick one of his kids, and it doesn't work out for either one. Absolutely incredible establishing episode of Discovery in the first season, about halfway through. I think it's like the 6th episode. Abby, what's your take? Lethe, it's just brilliant.
This is one of my favorite episodes of that season, and for all the reasons that you guys mentioned. And I'm going to plug the costumes again. Gorgeous in this episode.
So good.
And the colors on screen, everything is vibrant and contrasting. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, but I mean, the family relationships that you see here with Amanda and Sarek and Spock and Michael, I mean, there's so many threads, and you pull one and all the rest of them move in conjunction, and it's retconning doesn't always work, but it really does here.
It's perfection. Okay, awesome pick. Let's close it out with my 5th pick. 5 words and a hashtag. It's going to be another impersonation. Hydrogen eyes in the dark. Hashtag one moon circles. Yes, it is TNG's Night Terrors. One moon circles. This one came to me early, and
how did I not think of this?
I just love it because remember when I talked about how it's the core of the episode? This is like the core of the episode. The one moon circles. My favorite part of this episode is when they're figuring out the mystery of trying to go through. Like, I just love when Data and Deanna are talking about it, and they're just being very logical. And are they asking for something? Are they telling us they need something? And if you're you would think you'd ask for what you need, not what you have. And then she's like, well, what do we do with it? What do I tell them? She's like, they've already told us what to do. All you have to say is now.
Stop. Go back. Further back. There, stop. One moon circles.
Yes, Counselor. One electron circles one proton. This is a hydrogen atom.
One moon circles. That's what they've been telling me over and over.
Perhaps the aliens are thinking as we are, to collaborate in producing an explosion. If hydrogen is combined with another element, calendinium, for example, it is extremely volatile.
And I just love that. Tychon's riff, the whole bit, one moon circles. Where are you? Eyes in the dark. Where are you? It's just genius. It's really, really, really good stuff.
Iconic.
It's iconic. It's the best way to say it. It's not one of my favorite episodes. It's pretty far down. There's some cool visuals with the night terror stuff and the concept. And the effects of Deanna floating are not very strong. Although the feeling around it is great. I love the green and the background. But yeah, it's iconic. It's just so memorable. What were we gonna say, Abby?
You heard Marina Sirtis talk about that scene with her floating, right? And the harness and the size of her butt and all that. And yeah, it's not her favorite.
She sells it though. She
does.
Where are you?
That one freaked me out as a kid. I mean,
me too.
That's nightmare fuel. I mean, just the voice and everything. Yeah.
Well, these always came on by me at like 7 or 8 p.m. on Friday night. And so I remember I got to stay up. I was all right. And then I'm like, I'm not sleeping tonight. That was a little,
it does have
much.
Yeah, there's some scary imagery
well,
in there.
And you see the crew slowly deteriorating, which is so not like they normally are. I mean, they're getting snappy and haggard. They're really not focused. And that's almost as disconcerting as any of the night terrors.
But as a teacher, I mean, this is the episode. This is when I learned about REM sleep and like our physiological need for sleep and dreaming. And it's incredible what I've learned from Star Trek.
Absolutely.
And Deanna floating in a cloud. All right, and I'll just add one. I like this little piece of trivia because a lot of people don't connect some of these. But I was amazed because the actor who played the Betazoid, who doesn't really speak, is who they find and is communicating, is John Vickery. He played the Cardassian Rousseau in the season 7 of Deep Space Nine. That was such a hard ass to Kira, and who ends up getting killed by Damar.
Interesting.
Really, really cool connection. Okay. Love this. I knew there was not going to be any duplicates. Fantastic list from you guys. Let's go through some secondary systems.
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
Abby, what do you got?
All right. Well, we already talked about how I was also thinking about Kirk and the Gorn in Arena. I think that's awesome that we both did think of that.
Yep.
I had Kevin Uxbridge from TNG's The Survivors.
Oh, that's cool.
The only one left on the planet. And I always kind of think, he could return in some way, shape, or form because all we know is that he's mighty powerful. So
you know who's not coming back? The Who's Knock. Anyway. Sorry.
Too soon. I also had DS9's 111th episode was For the Uniform, where Cisco is too focused on one man.
Wow.
And had I not had parallels, that would have made my cut.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great episode.
So cool.
And then I also thought of if I had done the first part 1 of a 2 or 3 part series, I would have done DS9's Past Tense Part 1, where it ends on the name is Bell, Gabriel Bell. Yeah, I can't do the impression.
And I don't like your hat.
Yeah. There you go. So those are my secondary systems.
Okay, fantastic. Chris, how about you, man?
I'm just going to rattle off some more 5 words and hashtags real quick.
I love it. Let's do it.
Hogan lights their way home. Hashtag we are not immigrants. And that's Distant Origin. Hogan's the one clue that leads them to Voyager. And Origin is 1.
Oh, yeah. Good.
No changeling has harmed another. Hashtag one shape. That's Broken Link.
Oh, man. Good.
That's a good one.
The Courtroom as Crucible. Hashtag a pure product. A Measure of a Man, the pure product, the truth.
Yes.
Also, this one curiosity, this one android.
I love it.
And then I'm the one that finds hashtag put your shoes away, the inner light.
That's an amazing hashtag.
That's almost that was almost my number one. And then finally,
that's a great one, the inner light.
It's too obvious to go to.
I know. No, it's not. I'm the one it finds. That's so good, man. I didn't think of that. And I say that all the time. I'm the somebody. I'm the one it finds.
Exactly. My last one is they arrive separately, leave together, hashtag Darmok and Jalad.
Brilliant. You guys are so good. All of these. Mine are my secondary system was a little more straight up basic ones. My toughest cut, I really wanted, I ended up picking Friendship One ship instead, but I thought about Regular One, the often reused model that was originally in the motion picture. They turned it upside down in 90s Trek, so it was Starbase 375, I think was the number. I didn't check that in Deep Space Nine. So Regular One, and then I thought about all the different episode titles. There's a million of them. One Little Ship, Shuttle Pod One, Angel One, One Small Step, Babel One, One, and there's more.
See, in my prime directive, I did not allow myself to have one in the title.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did the same. I took out all those episodes except Friendship One, but I took the ship instead of the episode. Arctic One, the ship from Regeneration, and then nobody's mentioned. There's two really, really big ones. Actually, a third one would be my special shout out. There's Number One. No one's. We don't have any reference to actual Number One, which I know will be a popular pick.
Yep, I thought of that
in various forms, whether Una or Riker or Picard's beloved Pity. And Priority One alert. There's a bunch of those all over the place. But my special shout out, and we'll close on this, is 7 of 9 of Tertiary Adjunct of Unimatrix.
Oh my God.
0-1. We love her.
That's so fantastic.
Good. So many, so good. These abstract topics never disappoint. Great Trek deep dive, but now it's time to get into our regeneration cycle and go through some stats and a quick recap of our picks.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Abby and Chris, run down your picks. Abby.
All right. I had TNG Season 3, Episode 22, The Most Toys, Fajo's Collection. I had Discovery Season 2, Episode 6, The Sound of Thunder, talking about Saru. I had TNG Season 7, Episode 11, Parallels. I had Enterprise Season 4, Episode 13, United, with the best one-on-one fight, and the short trek Calypso for one person left on the ship.
Fantastic list. So you, like you said, you had Discovery, Enterprise, and short treks, and then 2 from TNG. Chris, how about you? Break down your 5.
Yeah, I chose The Forge, which Saval mentions how the humans have all these characteristics in one. Number 4, I have the internal conflict of Mariner fighting herself in Crisis Point. And then I have 7, learning that the one voice is stronger than 1,000 in The Gift.
Amazing.
And then I have 2, becoming one in Sarek, that mind meld between Picard and Sarek. And number 1 is Sarek's fruitless choice to choose one of his children for the Vulcan Expeditionary Group.
Fantastic. So like you spread it around, 5 different incarnations with 1 each from Enterprise, Lower Decks, Voyager, TNG, and Discovery. And my top 5 were from Enterprise, Silent Enemy, and Echo 1, the subspace buoy. Number 4 was from Friendship 1, the ship Friendship 1 from Voyager. Number 3 was Discovery's Forget Me Not and the Trill I'm Many and I Am One. My number 2 pick was from What Are Little Girls Made Of? The Old Ones from the original series. And my number 1 pick, One Moon Circles from Night Terrors and TNG. So I spread mine around too. 1 from Enterprise, Voyager, Discovery, the original series, and TNG. And I love that our number 1 picks, you guys had 2 modern Trek picks and I had 1 moon circles. so that is cool. That it's very rare that I don't have some other kind of stat to pick, but we were so all over the place with just such a broad canvas that all I've got is the series breakdown here. No duplicates, but the series breakdown is interesting. We had 1 each from TOS, Lower Decks, and the Short Treks. There was nothing from Deep Space Nine, which is surprising, Picard or the Kelvin
It was
timeline.
on a lot of secondary systems, though, the DS9 stuff.
It's interesting. I mean, there's no reason to think why that would be just kind of random. There was 2 from Voyager, 3 each from Enterprise and Discovery, and TNG led the way with 4. So a breakdown of our picks. Fantastic topic. I love it. As we do every week, though, we have been hit by temporal distortion. So before we can depart, it's time to hear from you.
The temporal distortions are fracturing space-time throughout the ship. Cause?
Unknown.
Oh, we know the cause, Mr. Tuvok. It's all that amazing feedback that we continue to receive from our listeners at TrekRanks. And this week's temporal distortion is a quick one. It's knocked us all the way back to episode 56 of TrekRanks. That episode came out 2 years ago, and this temporal jump is very, very appropriate since we're doing an abstract topic tonight. This one just came in a few weeks ago, and it was kind of unofficially our first abstract topic when we actually did the top 5 shapes, which is one of my favorite topics we did. We did shapes, and then we started doing abstract, and I was like, oh, we could do shapes. Oh, we already did shapes. I was thinking. So out of the blue, we got one from our friend Jen House, who's been on the show a few times, who's at Dr. Jen Throws. She sent over her top 5 shapes, complete with 5 words and a hashtag, and it's great. So I'm just going to read it off here now. Number 5, looks good, can't be comfy, hashtag balls, it's Worf's chair in his quarters as seen in Family. That is the worst chair ever. Number 4, 5 words and a hashtag, may need to widen doors, hashtag epic. It's Guinan's hat that just gets bigger as the series goes on. Fantastic. Number 3.
If you ever want to make a Guinan hat, put a pizza cardboard inside a paper of pantyhose, and you can fit it on perfectly.
Oh my God!
Thank you. That's awesome.
That's pretty fast. I like that. Number 3, shape doesn't fool Pyrithian bat. I love this. Hashtag natural predator. It's Phlox's origami hawk in A Night in Sick Bay. Her number 2 was necklace is an unusual shape. Hashtag not, which it really wasn't. Picard season 1 remembrance. The unusual necklace that was 2 circles connected. Number 1, classic cube creates creepy context. Hashtag plain terrifying. And it's, of course, the Borg cube and the alienness of it from Q-Who. Fantastic list from Jen House. She is great. Need to get her back on. So once again, those picks more than enough to clear us from this week's temporal distortion. So as always, I want to thank everyone for all the great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. Keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So please put together your own list of abstract ones or a list from any of our past shows. Give us a call at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. That's 609-512-LLAP. So hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, we are doing a very cool topic that I think is going to hit on some massive deep dive picks and also some really big prominent picks. I've been looking for a way to bring back our cool one-off topics. Another one. We've done one-off heroes, villains, and romances. And I've been looking to kind of expand that. There's a few ideas I had. So I've also been wanting to do a specific episode about Klingon characters. So we are combining the two, and we are doing our top 5 one-off Klingons. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And I'm going to warn you guys and everyone who submits a list and whoever's the guest on that show when we schedule it. I'm going to be a hard ass on this. I'm going to be like, nope, they were in 2 episodes. So it's got to be a one-off person. I'm going to be super anal on defining one-off Klingon. So if you pick Grilka, you are going to get up. I'm going to have some kind of buzzer ready to go. So it's like, Grilka's out. She appeared in 2 episodes. She's awesome. I'd love to talk about her, but she's not a one-off Klingon. Anyway, so that's our setup. Abby and Chris, the pressure's on. If you had to choose a single one-off Klingon character, who would it be?
I've got one. I like the Klingon scientist that's in TNG Suspicions.
Oh my God!
Yes.
They make a big deal out of the Ferengi scientists, but Klingon scientists, those are rare birds too.
I love it, and I can't remember the character's name, but the actor is Trisha O'Neill, who played Captain Rachel Garrett.
Oh my God!
Oh, that's right.
It's like that's kind of a mind-blowing one.
Holy bananas!
But
I found that out a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
that's an awesome pick, though. I did not thought about her yet. I haven't really started my list yet, so that is a great one. Chris, one-off Klingon.
I love the episode Barge of the Dead. So Kortar, the captain of the Barge of the Dead, would be my guess.
That's
he's amazing.
Massive deep cut. That guy is cool. That is very, very good. It's super cool because there's gonna be lots of deep cuts like that. But when we think about the movies, there's a lot of there's some big time one-off Klingons when you start bringing the movies into it. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. So looking forward to that one. And all right, before we wrap it up here, a huge thanks to Abby, Sommer, and Chris Chaplin. Great to have you guys on. Chris, incredible to finally get you on.
I was wondering if you could show me how to access these subspace communications logs.
We're going to do that right now, Neelix. So any final Trek subspace communications either one of you guys want to relay before we depart? Abby.
So I would love for anyone who wants to listen along to Melanie, otherwise known as Shuttlepod 2, and I, who are rewatching Enterprise and discussing it, and the handle for that is @FirstFlightPod. And if you want to get me, I'm @AbbySummer. Remember, Summer with an O.
That is a new Enterprise Rewatch podcast here on the Tricorder Transmissions. We love it. Chris, how about you, man? It's great to finally have you on and talk to you.
I'm so excited to be on. Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter @ShelfNerds, where I put out daily, sometimes like 10 Star Trek polls.
sometimes hourly polls.
You know, I just see them as a moment in time where we all can escape the world and live in Star Trek for a moment and really think about it. So I also do this monthly kind of activity where I put out these monthly prompts about different themes of Star Trek. This month in March, in April, it's Enterprise. May, it'll be all about New Trek only. And it's just a fun way to, again, look at Star Trek through different lenses. I've learned so much from people that are participating. I also want to plug my YouTube channel, Completing the Shelf.
It's awesome.
Where I just do a lot of video essays on Star Trek, because where else am I going to talk about Star Trek in a semi academic way, nerdiness abounding.
I love it. And this episode's coming out in late May. What's coming up in June?
I don't know yet.
Okay, I love it. All right, great job, you guys. Really awesome deep dive conversation. I knew it would be. And yeah, just want to thank everyone again for engaging with us here on episode 111 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
It took great effort to bring you here.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
Came from the outside. You bring disorder here.
The danger to you is Corby.
I was programmed by Corby. I cannot harm him.
The old ones programmed you too.
but it became possible to destroy them.
That was the equation. Existence. Survival must cancel out programming.
That's it. Logic. You can't protect someone who's trying to destroy you.